Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here in my yard, and if you were with me last time we came out here to feed my outdoor worm bag, we had noticed something had been picking through both my worm bag and my compost barrel. And at that time I even showed how I had fashioned a nice new cardboard covering for the compost barrel. The one that we've been using in the bag, pretty weathered, so guess what? It's getting an upgrade. I have not only one, I have two separate cardboard discs here. And you know, this harsh sunlight, not doing very good for the video, I think. We're going to have to move into the shade a little bit. You can also see that I've equipped myself with a whole lot of bedding. That's definitely been the theme here in the outdoor worm bag lately. Lots of bedding at each feeding. And I think the one thing I might be a little deficient on right now is moisture. I definitely hinted at the fact that we might be adding moisture off camera at some point after the last check-in of the worm bag out here, but I never did it. So I hope things aren't too dry. Alright, let me get on the glove and we're going to get in here and see how things look. So what I've got out here is a number of different things that we're going to use. I already showed the bedding collection I made. Just sweeping stuff off my patio. Mainly these seeds. I tried to make it mainly these seeds, because to me it seems like seeds is like a terrific energy and, you know, nourishment source. And this is the smaller of the two containers. I've got another one that's even bigger. Now, the other thing that's got a lot of seeds in it is my worm chow. So I bought up a little bit of my worm chow. Like I do sometimes, I'll sometimes bring up my pulverized eggshell, which is in this little chamber. So I've got some of my grit here too, but the other three chambers are filled with my worm chow, which we're going to include too. So besides all the, you know, maple leaf little seeds that we're gonna use as sort of the bedding slash food, here's just a little bit of extra food. And you know, like I said earlier, I got a feeling moisture is going to be a good thing here, so we'll set this thing to mist. It's nice to have it right there on the ready. Oh boy, I'm trying to remember now, what did I do in here? Usually I don't do much in the bins that I make videos about, but here coming back to me now. I made some breaded meat the other day, and after I got done preparing it all, I had a little bit left of the flour. So you know, when you're preparing something to be breaded, you start with covering the stuff in flour, and after it's got a little bit of flour on it, you can give it the egg wash, and then you're kind of creating like an egg wash plaster of Paris out of the flour, making the whole thing sticky enough for all the breadcrumbs to stick to. And that's the third thing that you put the meat into, and then it's pretty much ready to go into the deep fryer or into the oil bath or whatever it is. So now, did I just screw up my feeding zone indicator? I'm pretty sure we left ourselves a little marker to show where we last fed. We kind of got into this little bit of a back and forth ping pong pattern, and I wonder if maybe when I came in here with this flour I might have disrupted what was going on. So we're gonna have to figure out. So I guess going back 2 feedings, we had a whole bunch of leaf bag torn up by hand, making a bunch of bedding that looks like this. So that would have been on one side, and I think that's actually where we put all the leftovers of the avocado. That actually goes back a number of feedings now. So I think this is what's going to take us back to the feeding 2 times ago. The avocado led us back in the end. And even last time we were in here, we saw good bits of leftover bedding. Here we're seeing some of it. This is all torn up by hand, leaf bag. And on this side I did come in a number of times to dampen it, add some moisture. And it did seem like it helped a lot, because when we came in here last time it was loaded with worms hanging out. It was a little bit more impressive last time, I gotta say. Hopefully they're just over on the other side where we most recently fed, although here I'm still seeing bits of corn cob. Sometimes I'll take the corn cob bits, or you know, the corn cob, and slice it into little bits to help with the breakdown process, and it definitely helps a lot. And it's giving me a new appreciation for how the worms really get in between each of the little segments where a kernel of corn is. Even on some of the larger cobs of corn that I'm seeing in some of my other systems, you could see how the little tiny worms just burrow right down through the cob, through the side wall. But you know, I guess we're going to be doing a little bit of a back and forth sort of pattern. So since this side was what we fed 2 times ago, maybe that's where we're going to come back to when we're feeding. But for now, you know, let's see how the last feeding did. My only hope is that it's not too dry, and you know, I guess just going back to the flour, it doesn't seem like the flour did a whole lot sitting out there on the top, somewhat dry. So hopefully just blending all that in. At this point you saw we had new top covering, so this is the official retirement of this old top covering cardboard. You know, when I started actually using it for placing the flour in here, I tried to layer in the flour into multiple layers so it wasn't just in a big mound. Didn't seem to make any difference or help at all. Alright, so the bedding we used last time was similar. It was this leaf bag, same exact material, but since that bag was clean, I ran that one through my shredder. So 2 feedings ago, a whole bag, I don't even remember, was it a whole bag? Maybe not an entire leaf bag went in here. And then last time we did the same thing. We made the mix out of leaf bag, but then we combined it with a bunch of leaves also. And man, is this stuff dry. I would not be surprised if worms did not even go near this stuff. Ay. So we put in a corn cob. So it does seem like the worms were able to zero in on the cob as a good thing to check in on and hang out on. But all the surrounding material, it seems pretty harsh. So that was the thing. We had chopped up bits of corn cob on this side, the little discs like so. And on this side we had more whole cobs. So we had just, I think, maybe 1 cob that was snapped in half. And I don't remember something else, but man, is this stuff dry. So guess what? Silly me, why don't I just grab my hose? Right, here it is. And I'm usually not one to disturb kind of when we're getting into this sort of back and forth approach in a bin. You know, where this was the last feeding and that was the feeding 2 feedings ago. So you know, maybe the last feeding we just kind of leave it as is or help it along a little bit with a little bit of something down in here. And I think that's something that's going to help a lot is the moisture that we're adding now. And, you know, when I get that feeling like I need to help a part of a bin or an entire bin, I don't feel like I'm so compelled to stick to some sort of a feeding pattern or anything. I just get this weird feeling like maybe it wouldn't hurt to grab some of these seeds, you know, because all this paper, cardboard, whatever, mostly bedding, some leaves too, but nothing very nourishing. I got a feeling that these seeds will actually help encourage the worms to really get busy over in this stuff. And you know, this stuff is dry, so it really wouldn't hurt to blend it in with the moistened bedding around it. And we'll get the hose back in here, but I figured we'll blend some of it in. And then we'll put a little bit more moisture in here, and then that should give this side a little bit more of a jolt. And it's my fault for not coming in here to dampen things. I should have known better. I even mentioned it twice during the last video. I reviewed our last check-in to remind myself what had happened in here last time. And on 2 occasions I made mention of how adding moisture to this side, because of all the dry material going in, it would make a lot of good sense for me to come back and dampen things, but I completely forgot. Absent-minded me. So I think going extra generous on the moisture here is probably a very good idea. I think I'm just going to let this thing go. It's a bag, you know, so I mean, anything that might be considered as too much can just flow out. So I'm just going to let the thing keep spraying. And then you know what? I think we'll even add more. We've almost entirely emptied this first small size container. The other one's bigger, so we're going to have a whole lot more to use for our actual feeding. But this just seemed like the right thing to do for this side, not to let this side just become a barren wasteland until the next occasion when we come back in here and switch over to feeding on this side. I want the whole bin to work well and be humming along, so I think this is a good thing for this system. And then covering up with some of the existing materials, all the while still adding a whole bunch of moisture. Feels like in an outdoor bin you can't go overboard with moisture. Somehow it'll always equalize. I don't know how, but it always seems to. Alright, so I keep putting this thing from place to place, trying not to spill it out. It's intended to go into the current feeding, which is going to go over onto this side where the leaf bag that I had torn up by hand was used as bedding. Now I think somehow down the middle here is where we're going to find all the worms. So they couldn't, I guess, not that they didn't, but they couldn't move into the new bedding. Hopefully we've remedied that issue with all that moisture. And then even on that old side, I don't know, maybe there too it should have been kept more damp to keep the worms more interested. Because it just seems like this middle section of castings is where all the worms were hanging out. I was a little bit surprised at how many worms I saw in here when we unearthed it. And man, are these castings nice. There is some, you know, bedding and food bits starting to show up, so I guess we're starting to enter into what we sort of considered to be the other side. And that's where our feeding's going today. But all this seasoned stuff that's been in here for, you know, all this while, as well as this old top, this is all going to become bedding for our feeding, which is basically more bedding. But to me, it just somehow seems like more, you know, since it is seeds. The seeds of the tree, and I had them all around me, and I was thinking to myself, man, look at all that good potential food / bedding all combined into one. It's not just like grabbing some autumn leaves and tossing in some leaves or shredded paper. It seems like you're really giving them a huge dose of really nutritious stuff, which at the same time doubles as really excellent bedding too. So I think this is stuff that they're going to do away with pretty quick. I'm pretty sure the last time we used it, which was not even that long ago, we didn't see the stuff last very long, if I remember correctly. So down here, yeah, you know, if I had been coming in here more frequently, this paper would be more damp and there'd be more worms in it. Because last time there were more worms in it, because I had been more vigilant about keeping this stuff nice and comfortable for the worms. But I somehow allowed this system to slip off my radar, and I did not do what would have been best for what's going on over on this side. So I think what's going to be best for what's going on this side is a whole bunch of moisture, just like the other side got. We're just going to almost over dampen this system, I think, to the best of our ability. But I think it's time to start laying in all this yummy stuff that we bought for them, so that it can also get dampened. And it probably makes good sense to sort of get blended in as well with some of the surrounding material at the same time, which is already a little bit damp. So that's kind of good. Alright, let's see. This is the other one. A whole bunch of it. And I wonder if it's all going to fit. It's got to fit. Let's just get it in here. Or, well, you know what? Let's try. But if we can't, then we can't. But is that overdoing it? I don't object. I mean, we are going to take some of this, you know what, to hang on to this little bit. Seems silly. Let's get all of it in there, right? But we're also going to spice it up a little bit, right? With our little spice collection here, we're going to add our worm chow and crushed eggshell grit. That'll make it all a little bit interesting too. But, you know, I guess in the big picture sort of look at it, it doesn't seem like it amounts to much, all blended in now with all that stuff. Hopefully that stuff just on its own will be something that the worms appreciate and can take good advantage of. But now I want to just add a whole lot more moisture. Alright, well, it looks like I've wasted enough time that the sun has actually peeked out around the house and is now shining down into our bin, hopefully not disrupting the image quality too much. A lot of times I find, like, if I'm trying to shoot in direct sunlight, it's just way too harsh, the shadows and the light and everything. So hopefully it's not too poor image quality, but we're pretty much done here. Just leveling off, putting some nice finished casting material over the top, and man, there is a lot of nice, really nice casting material in here. And I like how the whole level of the thing has risen a whole lot over the last 3 feedings. We went really overboard almost on all 3 of the last feedings, and it seems like that's exactly what this system's gonna do best with, you know. We kept like going really skimpy on the food and the bedding. Well, the food, this to me, this is definitely like a really high protein, I don't know, seeds, protein, right? So let's see, this one looks like it'll fit in here. This one's about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger. It's got some interesting graphics on it. Let's go with this one. Or do we want both? No, we'll just go with this one. This one's fine. So, oh, you know what? Before we cover up, this is a good chance for me to keep all these nice castings in the system instead of letting them vanish out of the system. Another excuse to just give the whole system a little shot of extra moisture. You know, I wish I had some way to mark where we set up the last feeding area, but you know, looking for all those big seeds, that's going to be the easiest way, I think. So we should have no problem finding our way back just the same way we did today. But that's the end of the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let's get this thing covered up and put away. I got a few things I got to further clean up around here, but I'm not going to keep you around for that. That's boring. Before I go though, really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. Alright, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.